Hi, and welcome to the DataMiner training. Welcome to the DataMiner Configurator Level 1 part. In this part, we'll basically take a look at how to configure the foundation of a DataMiner system. In the fundamentals, we kind of assumed that everything was already there and we navigated around and basically discovered the whole DataMiner system. In this part, we will start building a DataMiner system. So I assume already a little bit that the fundamentals are already something you know and you have maybe looked at. So this welcome will be very brief. I'm still Bert Vandenbergen. I'm still the CTO at Skyline. I already did the previous part, the fundamentals. So I kind of assumed that maybe you've watched those. So you've seen me before. As I said in the fundamentals, we looked at an existing system and all the concepts and all the UIs and what is important to manage a DataMiner system on a daily basis. Now in the configurator level 1, we will start building a DataMiner system, adding new elements, managing protocols and templates. In level 2 is also building a DataMiner system, but more the graphical layer on top of it. Visuals, dashboards, low-code app, these kind of things. And sysadmin is more advanced management of your DataMiner system. So here we'll look at the level 1 configuration, which is the foundation of a DataMiner system. And there it is already right in the middle, the elements. That's going to be the most important thing we need to do here, building those elements in a DataMiner system to get all the information from the data sources into the DataMiner system. But to be able to add an element to a DataMiner system, you do first of all need connectors. So we will need to take a look first at connectors. And once we've added those elements, we need to define in the trend and alarm templates what is being trended, what is being alarmed, and then we can also combine them in views, services, and SLAs. So that's how we will build a system with elements and then add them into views and things like that. But first things first, before we can even start with something, we need those connectors. So that is what this module is going to be about. This is the module connectors within DataMiner Configurator Level 1. Let's take a look at connectors, the first foundation we need before we can add an element. I already briefly mentioned what a connector is, but still we're going to have a small introduction, and then we'll dive right into the protocols and templates app where we manage our protocols. Note, protocols, connectors, drivers, that's all the same word. So we basically sometimes use connectors, we sometimes use protocols, and we sometimes use drivers, but it's all the same thing. It is to be able to communicate with those data sources. So the app where we will manage those things, what kind of management will we do? We will add new connectors. We will take a look at the editing possibilities, deleting, and we can also put an information template on top of a connector, which basically allows you to tweak certain things in a connector without touching it. A small overlay on top of a connector it is basically. We'll take a look at that. Okay, so first things first, a small introduction. We already know we need a connector or a driver or a protocol, as we call it here in the UI, to be able to communicate with a specific device or system or cloud function or anything that has a remote API. So that's the real powerful thing in a DataMiner system, that with those protocols, you can basically get information from anywhere. We basically guarantee if there is a remote API, if there is a remote way of getting the information out of the data of the system, we can create a driver for it and we can pull it into the DataMiner system. So it defines what we need to send to the system to be able to get it back, but we can also listen on certain ports, for instance, and fetch streaming data into the driver as well. So it's not only polling. I typically say we're polling the information from the elements, but it's also could be pushed to the DataMiner system as well. So we have a lot of features and capabilities in a driver to be able to handle all kinds of protocols, standard protocols, but also proprietary protocols, pushing or pulling information, connecting to databases, REST APIs, binary sockets, serial ports, GPIB, whatever kind of standard protocols, SNMP, OpenConfig, whatever it is, we can just start leveraging any kind of protocol to pull it into the DataMiner system. So, but to be able to explain to a DataMiner system how it needs to communicate, we need that driver. So in this case, we do see a driver here, which is the Microsoft platform. So this Microsoft platform will explain to a DataMiner system. That's the way you communicate to a Microsoft platform. And it's basically using the WMI protocol in this case. We also have an SNMP version. So it defines the communication, and we will see also a stream viewer app where we can see that communication, basically all the data going back and forwards between the DataMiner system and the actual data source. That's the stream viewer. So that's the actual raw communication protocol, which is going back and forward here to fetch all the data. Once we get the data into the DataMiner system, it's being processed and we want to nicely visualize that. So within a driver, we also have the visualization, the display information in there, like what is the name of the parameter, where is it positioned, we put the memory parameters together, if it's an LED bar or if it's just a number. So all of these things are defined in what we call the driver as well. So like for instance, a parameter with a name and a description, that's all defined in there. So remember that if the layout, or for instance, the pages, we have a performance page here, or if the pages are not very logical, please provide us that feedback. We can improve that driver by rearranging the pages, by changing the layout, by changing the name of the parameters. So all of these things can be easily changed in a driver. So if something is not logical, or you see something that can be improved, please let us know. Now, that being said, that is a driver. As you can see, it is defined in an XML format. We'll take a closer look at how to edit that later on. But we'll see in the catalog that we already have thousands of those drivers available. 6, 7, 8,000 drivers we have in the catalog, probably something like that, readily available to just deploy it and communicate with any kind of data source. But as you can see, as all of the things in a DataMiner system, it's open. You can just start changing this. You can just create your own driver as well. So it's an open platform. Feel free to create your own drivers or change or modify some drivers that you have there. It's all nicely documented on our docs interface or docs websites. Okay, that's enough for the introduction. Let's dive into the protocols and templates app. So this app can be found underneath the apps in the sidebar there. There you will find the protocols and templates app. If you open it up, you will find the protocols and templates page. So in this module, we first look at the protocols, not yet the templates. So that's coming up later. And where can we find those protocols and not look at the templates yet? That's the first and the second column we're looking at. The first column is containing all the protocols. And if you select a certain protocol, like we have here selected the Microsoft platform, we'll see all the versions that we have on our DataMiner system here. So we do have the possibility to have different versions and maintain new versions on a DataMiner system. So if Skyline comes up with a new version, or the developer of that specific driver that I'm using here comes up with a new version, I can put it on my DataMiner system, I can check it out, and then I can use that and go back easily as well to an older version if any problem would arise. So that's the protocols and the versions of that selected protocol. The next column is alarm and trend templates. That's for later on. That is something we will add later on. Now, something to note here is that whenever we select a driver or connector or protocol, we do see the versions with some icons next to that and also next to the Microsoft platform. We do distinguish a couple of icons. Well, roughly said, the blue one is signed, the gray one is not signed. So what it means is that whenever we develop a driver or whenever the developer created a driver, it's XML, it's open text format, so you can easily change that. So the developer doesn't want other people to change it without them knowing it, or him knowing it, or her knowing it. Therefore, you can sign it. So signing is putting a signature on there and like a checksum, and it says like that's signed and don't touch it. Whenever you change one little thing to the driver, the signature is broken and then it's unsigned, or there is no signature available, then it's also unsigned, of course. So that allows you to see immediately if you are looking at the drivers or the versions in there. Oh, well, this is a version, and if there's a Skyline bird in there, then you can see, oh, this is a version still stamped by Skyline, developed by Skyline, signed by Skyline, so it hasn't been touched. If you see one which is gray, then you know like, probably somebody changed. You can see it here, the version 66, it's signed, well, or signed by a third party in this case. Could be another provider that is providing this Microsoft platform. But you can see there has been two like alternative versions created with DRS, DRS2, and those are not signed anymore. So somebody quickly changed something, uploaded it again, and that's, you could say, a kind of a dangerous maybe version, because we don't know who did that change at this stage here, what he wanted to change, if it has been validated, if the necessary QA has been done on there and the control gates have been validated. We don't know that. So we have to be careful here. But in this case, it's a test platform, so we were playing around with indeed certain alternative versions there. So it's either signed by Skyline or a third party. Another vendor or provider can provide drivers. And the gray one, either it's just gray and not in use, then I'm not so much worried about it. But if there is a small exclamation mark next to it, then it means that there is at least one element using this version. Be careful with that one. And basically the summary of the icons is also being shown on the top or on the driver itself. So you can see that there is a part gray and a part Skyline signed. It's a little bit small to maybe distinguish, but it makes a combination of all the icons underneath there and displays that on the driver itself. Okay, so be aware with that version. I'll come back also to the production version later on when we will be adding an element, but there is an important concept, production. And the thing you have to remember is that all the elements should typically use the production version. If I have 100 Microsoft servers, they should all be using the production version. Then I have 100 of my elements, they are using the production version of the Microsoft platform. That's the easiest, because if tomorrow the developer comes up with a new version of the driver, here we're using version 4, let's say version 5 comes out tomorrow, I put version 5 on the DataMiner system, but how do I now easily change those 100 elements? I don't want to go for each and every element to edit it and go to version 5 and do that 100 times, or do some bulk editing of the 100 elements. No, I want to manage that here. And everybody or all the elements are using production version, which is currently pointing to version 4. I can just add the new version on there, and I can right click on the new version and set version 5 as production, and in one click the 100 elements are moving from version 4 to version 5. So here you can easily right click and set another version as the production version, and all your elements will follow into that new version. If something goes wrong, you can immediately go back and put the previous version in production as well. Now, small note, before I will change my production version to version 5, I will probably first maybe check it on one element. Maybe take one element, put that one element on version 5 in a test environment somewhere, check out if version 5 has the necessary changes that I requested to the developer. And if I'm happy with that version 5 there, and it's maybe in a test and lab environment, I've validated, I put it back on production, that element, and then I come here and I say version 5, right click, set as production. So remember, when you add elements, always set them on production and then manage your production version in this app. Okay, there's also a section on the information template and the visuals underneath the versions. Small word on that. The first one, information template, is already a first template. A template is an overlay because you don't want to change the driver just like that. If you get a driver from Skyline, you don't want to fiddle around to modify and make your own version, because if tomorrow they come out with version 5, yeah, your changes in version 4 are not in version 5. So I need to copy again my changes into the new version that I receive. And the day after they come again with a new version, I need to copy my changes again. So ideally, I don't want to make any changes to a driver. If you want to make changes to a driver, and they are useful for other users as well, please provide us that feedback. Tell us like, oh, those memory parameters, maybe reorganize them because it doesn't make sense. It should be the other way around. Provide that information to us and we'll adapt the driver so that the next version for everybody has the better version. So typically, if you want to make changes to something, you want to do it in an overlay or a template. We'll talk about alarm and trend templates later. Here we already have the information templates. The information template allows you to change certain basics like parameter details and names of a driver. So if I'm not happy with the name total processor load, I want it to be total CPU load, I would be able to change it in that information template. So it's changing a little bit of the basic information in a driver that you can do with that information template. I'll come back to that at the end of the module, because there we will create a new information template and try that out ourselves. Now, the last part there is the visual files. We do also have a graphical presentation we can associate with a driver. So in this case, we can see that the Microsoft platform has like a Visio icon next to it. That is because underneath Visio files, there is a custom Visio file assigned to that Microsoft platform. There could also be a protocol specific one that is assigned to it. If there is no one, then there is just a generic default to fall back to. We'll talk about Visio files in the configurator level 2. That's a graphical presentation that we want to create. So Visio files comes up later, but be aware that you can here associate with your driver a Visio file, a graphical presentation. Now let's take a look at that in the UI, because we already saw quite some topics there. So we're going to be using the training system once again. So that is available if you go to your dataminer.services and you go to the organization, the Skyline Academy. You should, if you're doing it, and let me just refresh this. If you're following a certification, you should have access to the training platform as well. If you don't have access to the training platform, you can spin up a DAS system. That's just a brand new DataMiner you are spinning up there. I do have one. I'm going to use that as one as well. So there are some training systems underneath the Skyline Academy. I will be using my demo system that I have been using before. I did spin up before underneath the BERT training organization a demo as well, a blank DAS. I'll be playing with that one as well. And there is also the Zine platform. If you go to docs, you can actually find more information on how to connect to the Zine platform. Okay, that being said, I was connecting to my training system, and there I want to take a closer look at the protocols and templates first of all. So let's take a look, and you can find it underneath the apps, and there we have the protocols and templates. As I mentioned, we're going to first look at the first two columns, the protocols and the versions, and what is underneath there. The alarm and trend template is for later on. If you have a longer list, note that you can just type in there. So you can just type micro, and then you can already see I was just typing the first letters of Microsoft Platform. It already immediately goes to the correct protocol there. So you can type in there to go to Microsoft Platform. We do have a couple of versions on there. Typically, we want to be using the production version and always use that one. If all of a sudden a new version would be added on there, we'll talk about adding and managing versions in just a second. You can right click and you can set this one as production. Then all of them would be using that new version. There are some information templates already. I'll talk about that later. And you can see that there is indeed a custom Visio file associated with the Microsoft Platform. Therefore, we have that Visio icon next to it. If I take a look at let's take here the second one here, or this Mariner partners, there is no, that's just a generic default, then there is no custom Visio file on it. Let me show you how that looks like. So if we go to the server 01 or 02, open in a new card. So you will see that this is a graphical presentation. So if I open up the element, it goes by default to the graphical presentation, and then I can still dive into the details. Now, if I would open up, let's say here underneath Paris, I know these switches are just very basic switches. They don't have an graphical presentation because I believe they are these kind of DRS generic switch things, so they don't have a graphical presentation. So this uses the general default. Let's take a look at how a general default looks like. Open a new card. Let me close this one. You will notice if you open an element that doesn't have a graphical presentation associated with it, it will go by default to the data display. Because the graphical presentation is not really much. It's just showing you the name of the element, some details, the protocol, as I mentioned, the generic switch, some more statistics on or some more details, like the templates and things like that, and the element ID. And the overall alarm state. So therefore, this is not that useful. So therefore, we typically show by default the data display page if there is no graphical presentation associated to that. So that's the difference between having a graphical presentation and not having a graphical presentation. But creating that Visio is for the configurator level 2. Okay, so that's my Microsoft Platform, my versions. Yeah, you can see the signatures there, the icons, Skyline signed, third-party signed, and not signed. That speaks for itself, I think. Okay, let's go back to the slides. Okay, so that was a little bit the protocols and templates app, how to manage those protocols with their versions and how to navigate around in there, how that UI looks like. Now, how to add a connector to the DataMiner system. Well, before we add a new connector, I first want to mention that within the protocols and templates app, there is a possibility to check for updates. So to make sure that your drivers or connectors are up to date, there is a convenient check for updates. It just takes all of your drivers with their current version, and it will check it against the catalog if there are new versions available in that catalog. So if you want to check that out, on my training system here, I just go to the upper right-hand side. I already did it. I can see that there are 10 updates pending, but if I click on there, I can just check for updates again. So it will check all the versions that are on the catalog for everything that I have installed and show me if there are any new versions. Like for instance, apparently the Cisco Manager has some new versions. There is a certain version there available, and it shows you the changes in here as well, the version history in here. Note if I have licenses that are for certain drivers that are not installed, it will also show those available drivers as well. Small side note, there is also a software update of the DataMiner system I can do, but that's for later in the system admin. Okay, so when you have drivers already, remember, check for updates allows you to quickly check if there are new drivers available so that you are always up to date with your drivers. But that is assuming that you already have a driver. Let's take a step back and let's first deploy a brand new driver onto the DataMiner system. Well, the easiest way is, of course, to just pick and choose them from the catalog. So I go to dataminer.services, and within dataminer.services homepage, you have the catalog there. We have already discovered the catalog a little bit during the fundamentals part, and there we can just navigate around, search for our drivers in there. Not only drivers are in there, but also lots of other things like dashboards, automation scripts, Visio files, all these kind of things are in there as well. But we can search for new connectors in there and then just click on the deploy to deploy them to your selected organization and DataMiner system. So for instance, in this case, I'll immediately do it on my DAS system. We can search for a certain driver. In this case, they search for a Microsoft platform, but we already have that one, so we'll search for another one. And then on the right-hand side, make sure you select your correct organization, and then you can. It will always be able to deploy the driver. Either you can deploy it or you can deploy a trial if it didn't detect that you have a license for it, or if you don't have a subscription active yet. So then it will just be a trial version on there. And then you just select on which DataMiner system you want to deploy that, and that's about it. Okay, before we do a manual upload, we will do a catalog, but a catalog deployment. But the training system here has already many things on there, a long list of drivers, so it's a little bit too much to see any changes here. So I'm going to my brand new blank DataMiner system that I deployed during the fundamentals part. So during the fundamentals part, I deployed a new DataMiner system, a DAS system. I already deployed some augmented operations tutorial on there from the catalog, so I already actually did some deployment there. But let's take a look here to the apps and protocols and templates to verify that brand new DataMiner system, what it has in terms of protocols. So first of all, it has, of course, the Microsoft platform, because in the surveyor, it always has that My DataMiner agent element already on there. And then those anomaly detection protocols, those came along with the package that I deployed for my anomaly detection elements with some nice trend graphs that I used during the trending there. So I don't worry about those, but let's say that I now want to further build my system and I want to add a new Cisco switch here, which is in the rack just down the hallway. If I want to add that, I need, of course, that connector. So how can I add that connector? Well, let's go to our catalog. So if you go to dataminer.services, you can go to the catalog there, and then it will basically load this catalog interface. You can just go for browse catalog, and then it will start showing you all kinds of things there. You can filter on connector only, because at this stage we are only interested in connectors. There are lots of other things that are available in the catalog, like more graphical things like Visio files, dashboards, ChatOps extensions, as we've seen in the Teams integration, automation scripts, ad hoc data sources, all kinds of solutions as well. But here at this module, at this stage, we are interested in connectors. So I am filtering on connectors. And there's a long list of connectors available from all kinds of vendors that are already in there. But I'm going to use the search because I want to go for the Cisco Manager element. That's a generic Cisco Manager to manage a Cisco switch like a Catalyst. So the Cisco Manager is what I need. You can have a quick peek at the versions I'm not too worried about the versions. The last recommended version is just fine for me, and I'll try to keep it up to date in the future as well. But if necessary, you can find some more version history, and you can dive into the details as well, what has been changed, etc. when it was released. All of these things are being tracked in there. But I don't worry too much about that. The latest and the greatest version is just fine for me. So I want to deploy that. So make sure you select your correct organization. That's my DaaS system. If I would be selecting the Skyline Academy system, that's a subscription system. So this one will be able to just deploy without the trial. If I'm using that kind of DaaS Community Edition, the BERT training there, this one is not on a subscription, so it can just only install some trials, which is perfectly fine for my demo system here. So let's go for clicking on the deploy trial. I agree and continue that I shouldn't be using this in production. And then I can just, from that drop down, select my only DataMiner system that I have, the demo system, and then deploy that trial on there. You see it's deploying. Let's quickly go back on here. And in the information events, you will see that there is a protocol being added. The Cisco manager is being added to the DataMiner system. It's added by admin because I'm connected in as admin. My user account is linked to the admin. So the Cisco manager is now on there and it automatically added this, nicely signed. It already added a production version since there wasn't any production version. So everything is nicely ready to go and start adding elements on there. Now, I said it was linked to admin. Just a small side note on that. You have to make sure that your, if you go to dataminer.services root page and you go to your organization and your DataMiner system, you should make sure that your account is linked. If it is not linked, you need to make sure that your dataminer.services account and your account on the DataMiner system itself, that they are linked to each other. Because here I'm logged in as my Microsoft account, Bert van den Berge, and on the DataMiner system, I'm actually logged in as admin on there. So that's why those two are linked here. The admin are linked from this DataMiner system. So each DataMiner system could have a different user as well. And I think in the Skyline Academy on the demo system, I'm linked to another user, Bert VDB, on that system. Okay, so we were able to deploy a brand new protocol or driver or connector from the catalog onto my system. So on the catalog, you can just start searching, start adding more and more drivers. Search, deploy, click, click, and you have your drivers on there. Now, it is also possible to manually upload a driver. You can do so by the button on the lower right-hand side. So if I take a look at that, you have the button there. And if you click on there, you are able to search some here XML file or a DM protocol, or a Visio file can also be added. An XML or a DM protocol from your computer. So either the XML file itself you can upload, but typically we package a driver with the extension DM protocol. So .dm protocol, as you see here, DM protocol, that's the extension of a protocol package. So we also have like DM upgrade or DM backup, or those are always DM DataMiner with something behind it to indicate the file extension there. So here you can upload, if you get, for instance, from your Skyline contact a DM protocol, that's where you can upload it onto your DataMiner system. A small note is that replacing the protocol version, and if it's being used by certain elements, then it triggers a restart of all those elements. So if I'm, for instance, replacing an existing version and there's like already 100 elements using it, or I set this version 4 and I set version 6, for instance, into production, and it's being used, the production version, by 100 elements, those 100 elements will restart and reload the new protocol. That takes a couple of seconds to restart an element, but if you have 100 elements, it might take, of course, until they are all restarted. It might take maybe a minute or even 2 minutes, depending if you have hundreds of those elements. It might take more than a minute as well. Okay, so be aware when you change the version, it does a quick restart. So you can verify this. It's just like restarting, right-clicking here, set state restart. That will just trigger. You will see that it stops and it starts again, and you see the values need to start coming in again, because we started from a blank data element again with no parameter values in there. So we need to start polling the Microsoft server again to get all the values in there. So you can see this was quite fast, but be aware if you have hundreds of them, it will take a little bit longer. So that was adding a driver or a connector to the system. So we were able to check for updates. The most convenient one is going for the catalog to add a new one on there. And we have also that possibility of a manual upload there. Now let's take a look at editing the connectors. So let's edit a connector. Note that typically we don't really want you to do this inline editing here, but I do want to mention that it is possible. So you can go to a specific connector, take a specific version and open that up, and you will actually see the details of that driver with the actual XML content. It is possible to just change something in here. So be aware, this is more an administrator or maybe even a super administrator right to be able to change drivers, you could say, because that's something you typically don't want to give to an operator. So here you can just start changing that XML. There is an editor, you can easily find also things in there, and you can make changes to that and click apply. Remember, if you change a driver, all the elements using that version will restart the elements. But it could come in handy if you want to quickly change a small thing, you would be able to do so. So let's take a look on how that works. So if we go to the apps, I'll do it on my DAS system so that I leave the training system intact. So I go to the protocols and templates, and there I go for the well, yeah, maybe another way of going there, just a small trick, is if you right-click on your element and you want to go to that specific protocol, there is the protocols and templates section in there, and you can immediately view the protocol there, or the alarm or trend template as well, or the available templates. So I want to view that protocol. So it immediately loads the Microsoft platform version that is currently being used. So you can immediately see, if I scroll down a little bit, the XML here. Note, if you want to go back to see other versions, if you OK or cancel it, it will close this window, but you can also go to protocols and templates here. And let me close then it will immediately go to the protocols and templates and show you the other versions that are on there. There is only one actually, and that's this production version. Now, so I wanted to edit it. So if you open it up, and you have that XML. So if you scroll down, you will see that XML content in there. Yeah, there is a show details header with some, the vendor and things like that. Not too interesting, I believe. But you can also find here and, for instance, go for total processor loads, something like that. There it is. That is parameter 350, and I would be able to just change, for instance, not, you have to be careful, the name is more like an internal name, the description is on the UI. So if I just add test behind there, and if I now OK this, and it says like, watch out, it will be restarted, yes, and open up in a new card, this Microsoft, it's still restarting. And this parameter will be changing to total processor load test. As I mentioned, it is not something I want to do. changing a driver. So this would be the non-recommended way of changing something. I now broke that signature as well. Before it was nicely signed, that production version of the Microsoft platform. So we had the signature stamp on there. So with one small change to the name of that parameter, the total processor load test, I broke the signature, I restarted the element, and I now have a modified total processor load. But we'll see that we don't need to do this. We can actually do it in an information template in that overlay. We need to use the overlay, the templates, as much as possible. So I'll come back to that when we get to the information template. But if it would be necessary, it is possible to make a quick inline editing change in a connector here. Okay, a more recommended way of developing drivers and changing editing drivers is using the DataMiner Integration Studio. DataMiner Integration Studio, that's the recommended way of making drivers, but also automation scripts and things like that in a DataMiner system. It is a, you can go to our docs website to get some more information on that. There is more videos and more training around the DataMiner Integration Studio as well. It's not the objective to go in depth here. I just want to mention that if you are into developing drivers or serious automation script development, you need to look at the DataMiner Integration Studio. It's a plugin for Visual Studio. It allows you to give you all kinds of convenient editors because we don't want to be fiddling around too much in the XML. So we do have a decent XML editor in Visual Studio, but we have all kinds of editors to, for instance, make the display, the pages, the layout, a table editor, C# editor. All of these things are nice goodies in the DataMiner Integration Studio to very efficiently create new drivers. And then you can from there publish it onto the DataMiner system. And there is also some quick action debugging you can do with the C# editing. But typically, if you go for a GitHub integration, your XML or your driver will go into a GitHub repository. And the GitHub Actions will basically make a package and put it on the catalog. That's the full CI/CD you typically will go for if you are into serious DevOps development style there, with continuous CI/CD. Okay. As I said, this is a whole different story. You can find some more resources and training on our website for that. Now, deleting a connector, let's take a look at deleting. I can be very short, just look at the pop-up, I would say. The pop-up is the key thing here, because if you are deleting a driver, be careful, you will delete all the versions and all the templates, and potentially if there are some elements still using it, they will go into an error state because they won't have a driver anymore. You will need to edit before they will work again. If you delete one specific version, it will delete not only that version, but also the templates, the alarm and trend templates that are potentially created for that version will also be deleted. It's explained in the pop-up. Just read the pop-up. I would say that those things will also be associated with your delete. The templates will also be deleted, basically. Okay, and that last final thing is that information templates. I mentioned it before. It is the possibility to overlay something on top of your connector. So you typically never want to touch the driver, or that's at least the goal, I would say. As a regular administrator, a developer can, of course, develop and modify the drivers. But as an administrator role, I would say my objective would be not to touch the drivers. And I will focus on those information templates. So the change I made before with changing the total processor load, that was something I want to avoid. How can I do that? Changing that total processor load to CPU load. Well, therefore, I can leverage the information templates. There will always be a default information template embedded, baked into the driver, but I can just right-click and create a new one. I specify, give it a name, and then you will basically see the information template. And what is that? On the left-hand side, you will see all the parameters grouped by page, like I see it in the layout, the performance page with the total CPU load, the processor load, the task manager, etc. And I can select each and every parameter that I want to tweak a little bit. And on the right-hand side, I can see the modifications or what I can override. The most simple thing I can do is just changing the name or the description of the driver. The name of the the name of the parameter, I can change it. So I can see by default it is total processor load, but I can enable the checkbox override and I can say CPU load, for instance. Let's try that out. Let's see if I can pop up my demo system again. So I have my Microsoft platform. I can open maybe in a new card again my total processor load. I changed it, the total processor load in the driver, but nevertheless, let's forget about that. And let's say I'm still not very happy with it, and I want to change it to total CPU load. Be aware that if you want to change it to total CPU load, I don't want to now do it in the driver, but I want to do it the correct way. So how do I do that? I go to my driver, the Microsoft platform, and I see there this is version independent. Doesn't matter which version I'm using, version 1, 2, or tomorrow 3, whatever. I always have that information template overlay that is standing next to the versions. So I can create a new information template there, just a training template, just as name, and it will give me all the parameters grouped by page. So you can see all the different pages there. So I'm just going to go for the total processor load, scroll down a little bit, total processor load test I created, I changed it already. So I want to change that and I want to say this is now total CPU load. All right, that's it. Let me OK that. So I now created an information template. It just takes a second before it comes there. And be aware, the old one is still active. So my total CPU load is still our total processor load test. So I still need to activate it. And I can do that by right-clicking on the training information template and set as active one. If I set this one as active, yes, I want to confirm my action, and you will see that the total processor load will change in just a second there. So, or do I need to reopen my element? I guess I need to reopen my element. Open a new card. Let's give it a little notch. Total CPU load is now added in there. So now, I was not trying to close my alarm templates, my templates page there. Microsoft platform. If I open up the information template again, the training templates, you will notice, and that's something you have to keep in mind also with other templates, it will only show the parameters now that are edited. So only the edited parameters are being shown. That's to give you a short overview instead of showing you 1,000 parameters with only one somewhere deep down modified. It will filter it down and only show the modifications. Now, if I want to take another parameter, I need to click here on show only edited parameters and say show the protocol parameters again, and then I can pick another one, like for instance the total handles or total memory or whatever, and start modifying those. Okay, so that's how you can create a new information template, change, for instance, a name of a parameter, maybe translate that to another language, that would also be possible, and then apply it to your protocol that you are using. Okay. So here we've done it. We've changed the total processor load to total CPU load. I said total CPU load, doesn't really matter. You can change the name in your information template and then set it as active. Note it is on protocol level, it's not on version level, so it doesn't matter if I tomorrow change my version to version 5 or version 6. If I suddenly put version 6 into production, doesn't matter which version I use, the total processor load will always be changed to CPU utilization as you have specified in your information template. So you can override names, but you can also override other things. One of the other things that is mentioned here is also with a quick shortcut available in the menu here, but let me show you that with an example in our training system, because there I want to do it with our Philips devices that we have been using already quite a couple of times. So we can see that we have some audio output levels alarms on the Philips devices we have been using before. And there is the default information template that is currently being used. There is another one. I don't really care about that one. I will create a new one here. Just template 1 is fine, and I can change the audio output level, change it to something else if I would like to do that. I've done that before with the total CPU load. But I'm not worried about the parameter description in this example. What is the detailed description? Well, that's actually the, let me just quickly open up an element in an undocked card. What is the detailed description? That is, if you go to the parameter and you move your mouse over the parameter, you have this tooltip. This parameter represents the, you can see this parameter represents the gain of the analog stage. So if you move your mouse, you will see the tooltip here also indicates that. Or if you double click and you drill down in the details, you will also see this text here. Typically, it's coming from the manual. If you want, you could say like, okay, I want to override and I want to change this. A custom name, you can take a look in the docs. That's more for specific things in Visio and things like that. What else is available? You can put a category in a certain, or you can put a parameter in a certain category, a hardware or a networks category, or in a certain key point, if it's encoding or decoding stage, for instance. Or you can put it in a certain component if it's related to audio or video. Why are all these things here? Well, you can use those categories, key points, and component info in SLAs, in service level agreements. And you can say, well, if it's an audio problem or if it's a video problem, then it's a major impact on my SLA. If it's a teletext problem, then it's not really a full outage, you could say. So that's an example of why you could use this kind of additional information. And yeah, you want to change this without being able to change the driver. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one that I still, because they are sometimes a little bit more advanced, one I want to still highlight is the alarm description and corrective actions. That offline impact is again for the SLA, and you can have some more properties. But let me show you what the alarm description can do. The alarm description is, for instance, level too high. That's what it could be, or too low. And the corrective action could be something like change back to 6 dBm. Okay, so this is could be a very, very easy example here. A description for the operator, if he sees an alarm on, like in the alarm console at the bottom here, if he sees like alarms on the audio output level, what does it mean, or what does it do, and how can I correct this action? So I added some additional information there. Let me apply my information template. So I created my information template. I still need to apply it. The very first time you create it, now it's applicable, and I no longer have to worry about it. Well, in the alarm console, I can now add and remove columns, and I can add this alarm description and corrective action. Let me do that and move them a little bit more up front. So you can immediately see, the operator can see what the corrective actions are if an alarm happens on those kind of Philips devices with the audio output level. Oh, it's too high or too low. What is it? Too high? Oh, it changed back to 10. I open up the element display and I can start changing this. Let me open up the element in a new card here. So if I go to one of those elements and I have that audio output level, I can change it back to 6. But as an administrator, if I want to further tweak this and say like, yeah, maybe the 6, maybe 3 is a better value, well, you can double click on the audio output level. We have the details there, the trending, the histogram. We've seen those pages, but now the templates, we have 3 sections there, alarm and trend templates. That's for later on, but the information template already has the possibility here to change this and, for instance, change this not to 6 but to 3, and I can just update the information template, and you will see that now all of the alarms are immediately change back to 3 instead of 6. So be aware that if you drill down into any parameter, if I would go for the left test level, I can go to templates and I can also add a description here and the actions here and update that on a brand new parameter. So you can see that there, let me see if I have some left test level alarms. Left test level. Yeah, so you can see that those two actually have an alarm, but the alarm description is just very easy description and actions that I added in there. So you can now easily on other parameters add those descriptive actions or alarm description and corrective actions as well. So the information template is not only about changing the name of a parameter, it is also about giving additional information for SLAs, and in this case, even helping out a user or an operator what the alarm is about and what the potential corrective actions are to fix this problem. And you have that shortcut to drill down into it. So that was a little bit about the protocols and templates app. So we basically took a look at the first foundation. We need connectors. So we need connectors in a DataMiner system before we can add elements. In the next module, we will now add some elements on there. But in this module, we took a look on how to add those connectors there from the catalog, easily deploy it, how to manage them, how to edit them, use that production version. And we also took a look at the first overlay, the information templates. So we have created our foundation. We have deployed a new driver on there, so we should be able and ready to go to the next module. I hope you are as well, so see you in the next one.